Everyone has their ups and downs, but sometimes players just kill it with a certain team. But can they keep it up?
Couldn't be more pleased that Carson's going to be our quarterback for many more years.
Carson Wentz will be traded to the Indianapolis Colts.
Every NFL team has had themselves a one-year wonder at quarterback. These guys flourished with the specific team for 1 year, but never had that same success with the club again. Let's find out which one-year wonder quarterback made the list for your favorite team. And just to clarify again, we're talking about guys who only gave a specific team one good season, not guys who only had one good season for their entire careers. Arizona Cardinals, Drew Stanton. The Cardinals had to turn to Stanton after Carson Palmer suffered a torn ACL injury in the midst of the season. Stanton was up for the challenge, winning 5 of 8 starts and throwing for 1,711 yards, as well as 7 touchdowns and 5 picks. Stanton suffered a season-ending knee injury late in the season. That was pretty much it for him, as he would serve as Palmer's backup over his final 3 years with Arizona. Atlanta Falcons, Chris Chandler. In 1998, Chandler set career highs in passing yards with 3,154 and in touchdowns with 25. The Falcons went 14-2 en route to their 3rd ever Super Bowl appearance, where they fell to John Elway's Denver Broncos. Chandler was never really the same after that thrilling 1998 season, however. Baltimore Ravens, Trent Dilfer. Dilfer's lone campaign with the Ravens in 2000 was a Super Bowl championship season. Dilfer was largely carried by the Ravens' defense and rushing game. At any rate, he won 7 of 8 regular season starts and did more than enough to win the Super Bowl. The Ravens opted against running it back with him though, signing Elvis Grbac to take over as their starter instead. Buffalo Bills, J.P. LOSMAN. The Bills only got one good season out of the 2004 first-round pick. That came in 2006, when he completed 62.5% of his passes for 3,051 yards and 19 touchdowns, both career bests. LOSMAN led a not-so-good Buffalo team to a respectable 7-9 record that year, but it was simply a mirage, not exactly a breakout year. An injury to LOSMAN opened the door for Trent Edwards in 2007, and Edwards' performance helped him keep the starting duties for 2008. Carolina Panthers, Steve Beuerlein. He played for 6 NFL franchises, but his greatest success came with the Panthers. He had an MVP-like year in 1999, throwing for a league-leading 4,436 yards and 36 touchdowns against 15 picks. That was enough for his lone career Pro Bowl nod. Chicago Bears, ERIK. KRAMER spent 5 seasons with the Bears. He performed like an absolute star in 1995, but was mediocre at best during those other 4 years. In 95, KRAMER easily set career highs with 3,838 passing yards and 29 touchdowns. He led Chicago to a 9-win season, but they narrowly missed out on the playoffs. Cincinnati Bengals, Neil O'Donnell. O'Donnell is known for his success with the Pittsburgh Steelers and for failing to live up to the hefty $25 million contract the Jets handed him in '96. But O'Donnell also had a solid 1-year stint with the Bengals back in '98. Granted, the team won just 3 games that year, but O'Donnell wasn't the problem. He completed 61.8% of his passes for 2,216 yards and 15 touchdowns. Against 4 picks, O'Donnell also had a 90.2 QB rating, the second best of his career. Cleveland Browns, Derek Anderson. Anderson earned a Pro Bowl nod in 2007 after throwing for 3,787 yards and 29 touchdowns. The Browns went 10-6 that year, missing out on the postseason because of a tiebreaker. But Anderson never built that successful 07 campaign, and he spent the majority of his career as a backup. Dallas Cowboys, Drew BLEDSOE. Cowboys fans obviously remember Tony Romo replacing BLEDSOE as the starter in 2006, but it's easy to forget that the former had a productive year with the franchise back in 05. That year, BLEDSOE completed 60.1% of his passes for 3,639 yards and 23 touchdowns against 17 picks. Dallas went 9-7 but narrowly missed out on the playoffs. Denver Broncos, Tim Tebow. A desperate John Fox handed the starting reins over to the 2007 Heisman Trophy winner in the midst of the 2011 season. Tebow won 7 of his 11 starts, leading the Broncos to a string of improbable comeback victories. The 8-8 record was enough to win the AFC West, and he led the Broncos to a giant upset over the powerhouse Steelers in the wildcard round. But the Broncos never gave Tebow a chance to build off his 2011 season. They traded him to the Jets after signing Peyton Manning. Detroit Lions, Scott Mitchell. Mitchell is regarded as one of the worst free agent signings in NFL history, but the Lions actually got their money's worth for 1 year. In '95, Mitchell paced the Lions to 10 wins and a wild-card berth. He posted career best with 4,338 yards, 32 touchdowns, and a 92.3 rating. Green Bay Packers, Don Majkowski. Before the Brett Favre era commenced, The Packers thought they had their long-term answer under center. In '89, he pieced together one of the greatest seasons in franchise history, leading the NFL with 4,318 passing yards to go along with 27 touchdowns. Green Bay won 10-6, but barely missed out on the playoffs. His 1990 season was unfortunately cut short due to injury, and in '92 he lost the starting job to Favre after tearing a ligament in his ankle. Houston Texans, Brian Hoyer. Hoyer was Houston's quarterback for one season, in 2015, and hey, it went pretty well. Hoyer's efforts helped Houston win the weak AFC South, but they were embarrassed by the Kansas City Chiefs in the wildcard round. The Texans eventually signed Brock Osweiler to replace Hoyer. Indianapolis Colts, Philip Rivers. After 16 seasons with the Chargers, Rivers moved to Indianapolis for his Swan Song 2020 campaign. He played very well under Frank Reich, completing 68% of his passes for 4,169 yards and 24 touchdowns. That was enough to lead Indianapolis to 11 wins and a wildcard berth, though they went one and done after falling to the Bills. Rather than give it one last go, Rivers opted to retire after the season. Jacksonville Jaguars, Gardner Minshew II. An injury to Nick Foles in 2019 opened the door for 6th-round rookie Gardner Minshew to play out most of the season as Jacksonville's starter. Even on a terrible team, Minshew performed nicely. He won 6 of 12 starts and pieced together 3 game-winning drives. He had 21 touchdowns against only 6 picks for a quarterback rating 91.2. Minshew regressed in year 2, however, and the one-win Jaguars landed the first overall pick and drafted Trevor Lawrence, thus ending the Minshew era in Duval County. Kansas City Chiefs, Matt Cassel. After leading New England to an 11-win season without Tom Brady in 08, Cassel and Mike Vrabel were traded to the Chiefs after a disappointing 2009 campaign with this new club. Cassel put it all together in 2010, throwing for 3,116 yards and a career-best 27 touchdowns against only 7 picks. That helped KC to an AFC West Division title. Injuries and inconsistent play unfortunately derailed Cassel's 2011 and 2012 season in KC, and he wound up becoming a journeyman backup afterwards. Las Vegas Raiders, Jeff George. George only spent 2 seasons with the Raiders, but he performed like a star in one of them. In '97, George had his best statistical season. He led the league with 3,917 yards and tossed 29 touchdowns against only 9 picks. That was despite taking a whopping 58 sacks behind a horrible offensive line. A groin injury and lackluster production under new head coach John Gruden led to Rich Gannon stealing the starting reins from George in '98. Los Angeles Chargers, Tobin Rote. Rote is best known for his success with the Packers before the Bart Starr-led dynasty commenced, but Rote also spent 2 seasons with the Chargers, highlighted by an all-star season in 1963 while the Chargers were in the AFL. He led the Chargers to an AFL championship over the Boston Favorites, the lone title won in franchise history. Los Angeles Rams, John Hadle. In 1973, he earned his 2nd career Pro Bowl nod, throwing 22 touchdowns against just 11 picks. The Rams went 12-2, but fell to the Cowboys in the divisional round. The Rams traded him to the Packers in the midst of the 1974 season, thus making him a one-year wonder for the franchise. Miami Dolphins, Chad Pennington, classic QB. Pennington became Miami's main starter in 2008. The franchise was coming off a 1-win season. Pennington led the league with a 67.4 completion percentage, throwing for 3,653 yards and 19 touchdowns with only 7 picks. Miami won 11 games and the AFC East Division crown, and Pennington was named Comeback Player of the Year. Unfortunately, Pennington suffered brutal shoulder injuries in 2009 and 2010, limiting him to just 4 total games over those 2 seasons. Minnesota Vikings, Case Keenum. A knee injury to Sam Bradford prompted the Vikings to turn to Case Keenum for Week 3 onward. The veteran became a star in Mike Zimmer's offense, going 11-3 as the starter. He set career highs across the board, helping Minnie to the 2nd seed in the NFC. And of course, how can we not mention that Keenum threw the Minneapolis Miracle to Stephon Diggs in the NFC divisional round against the Saints. New England Patriots, Matt Cassel. Tom Brady suffered a season-ending ACL tear in the early minutes of the Patriots' Week 1 opener. Belichick had to turn to Cassel as a result, and the backup QB made the most of the star-studded cast. As noted above, New England went 11-5 under Cassel, who compiled 3,693 yards and 21 touchdowns. That helped him earn a $62.7 million contract with the Chiefs, following a trade during the ensuing offseason. New Orleans Saints, Wade Wilson. Wilson's best years came with Minnesota, but he had a quality 1993 campaign for the Saints, as well as under head coach Jim Moore. Wilson won 7 of his 14 starts and threw for 2,457 yards and 12 touchdowns. Jim Everett became the Saints' main starter the following season, and Wilson saw limited playing time as a result. New York Giants, Jeff Hostetler. A late-season foot injury to Phil Simms prompted Bill Parcells to put the offense into the hands of veteran backup Jeff Hostetler for the rest of the 1990 season. He won both his regular season starts. He flourished as a game manager in 3 playoff games, with 510 yards, 3 touchdowns, touchdowns and no picks. They beat the Buffalo Bills in the big game to clinch their second Super Bowl in franchise history. New York Jets, Brett Favre. After going back on his retirement word, Favre was traded from the Packers to the Jets. Green Bay wanted to move forward with Aaron Rodgers, and of course that turned out to be the right move. As for Favre, he fared well in his one-year stop with the Jets. He completed 65.7% of his passes for 3,472 yards and 22 touchdowns, and the Jets went 9-7, but fell short of the offseason. Philadelphia Eagles, Carson Wentz. Wentz had one great season in Philly. In 2017, he was running away with the MVP award, having tossed 33 touchdowns against 7 picks. Wentz unfortunately suffered a torn ACL in Week 14 against the Rams that ended his campaign. Injuries, a lackluster O-line, and mediocre supporting casts prevented Wentz from reaching that MVP-level form again. His final 3 years with the Eagles were nothing short of inconsistent and frustrating. He was eventually traded to the Colts in the 2021 offseason. Pittsburgh Steelers, Mike Tomczak. After Neil O'Donnell left for the Jets in free agency, the Steelers turned to veteran Mike Tomczak, who was up for the challenge. In 1996, Tomczak led Pittsburgh to a 10-win season and an AFC Central Division title. That was it, however, as Cordell Stewart took over the starting job from 1997 to 99 during Tomczak's final 3 NFL seasons. San Francisco 49ers, Alex Smith. The first overall pick of the 2005 draft had one good season with the 49ers. In 2011, under new head coach Jim Harbaugh, Smith helped San Fran to 13 wins and an NFC championship. Colin Kaepernick replaced Smith as the starter in 2012 after the latter suffered a concussion in the game against the Rams. The 49ers chose to stick with Kaepernick even after Smith was healthy enough to return. The latter was eventually traded to Kansas City during the ensuing offseason. Seattle Seahawks, Warren Moon. The Hall of Famer was Seattle's main starter for the 97-98 season. The first year went much better than the second, however. In 97, Moon earned his 9th and final Pro Bowl nod by throwing for 3,678 yards and 25 touchdowns. His numbers dipped in a frustrating 98 campaign though, and Moon went on to spend his final 2 seasons in Kansas City. Tampa Bay Buccaneers, Sean King. 2000 would mark his lone full season as an NFL starter, and King made the most of it, working as a game manager. King helped the Bucs to 10 wins and a playoff berth, though they fell to Philly in the wild card round. Brad Johnson, who would lead Tampa to a Super Bowl 37 title in the 2002 season, took over as the Bucs starter in 2001. King spent his final 4 seasons as a backup. Tennessee Titans, Kerry Collins. Starter Vince Young suffered a knee injury in Week 1 of the 2008 campaign, prompting the Titans to move forward with Kerry Collins. The veteran fared well as the starter and led the Titans to a top record in the AFC at 13-3. Collins, however, struggled in the team's divisional round loss to Baltimore. Collins and Young alternated starting duties in 2009 and 2010, but the former never regained that 2008 form again. Washington football team. Robert Griffin III. RG3 won Offensive Rookie of the Year honors after taking the league by storm. He threw for 3,200 yards and 20 touchdowns, against only 5 picks, while also racking up 815 yards and 7 rushing scores. Griffin led Washington to an NFC East Division title, but Washington's careless coaching staff mismanaged Griffin's health, and a series of injuries prevented him from ever building off that unforgettable rookie year. Which quarterback do you think is the biggest one-year wonder in your team's history? Join me in the comment section below. Make sure to follow myself and TPS on social media. We post great content all the time. Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, YouTube, we're on everything. Go subscribe, go follow, go check us out. If you like this video, give it a like. It takes 1 click down below, and subscribe to TPS. We post videos every day a new video. Of course, thank you so much for watching. I'm Jason Biondo. I'll see you next time.
On my knee.